Hello everyone watching. Welcome to the second virtual judging session for Geeklist Hack for Good hackathon that took place all over the world this weekend. Today, this session is focused on sustainable business. And actually, for sustainable business, we had many teams participating in cities around the world who have been assessed and will be going forward to Wednesday's judging session. We didn't have any virtual teams, distributed teams on this topic, so we don't actually have any teams to show today, but I am joined by two of our global judging panel for sustainable business. I'm joined by Yme Bosma, Director of the Smart Energy Program at Rockstart Accelerator in Amsterdam, and I'm joined by Hugh Knowles, Head of Innovation for Forum for the Future in the UK. Hi, Yme. Hi, Hugh.
Hi.
Thanks both for joining us. So what I thought we would do is, in lieu of having teams to see, and you'll be seeing many of them on Wednesday, would be great if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your organisation and what you do. As well as what kind of factors and criteria you'd be looking for, or any tips you have for teams who'll be presenting on Wednesday's session on sustainable business, and I'll share that with those teams so they can prepare their presentations.
Great. Shall I go first, Dan?
Go for it, Hugh. Yes.
Hi, so I'm Hugh Knowles, work for Forum for the Future. We're an NGO based in London, New York, Mumbai and Singapore, and we bring people together to work together to solve kind of wicked challenges, and those are sort of the big problems that we talk about, so anything from climate change, resource shortages, resource scarcity, that kind of thing, and I work heading up our innovation stream, so looking at how we can use future intelligence to understand what changes are happening and how we can help organizations create new products and services or new business models, new approaches to tackle big sustainability challenges. And I try to work in quite an experimental way, so I'm always looking for projects that might be quite likely to fail, but if they do succeed, are going to create quite a lot of change. And so particularly the projects that I'd be looking for, projects are those that are genuinely going to try and shift a particular system or really create change that is quite substantial but quite experimental. So I'm less worried about whether it's going to immediately succeed and more worried about whether the potential is there for something genuinely disruptive.
Excellent, thanks, Hugh. And really came across in your webcast, which was also cut a little bit short, but I'll share your webcast from Thursday with the teams as well. One of the reasons I was really excited about working with you was that focus on disruptive, innovative technology, and I think that's very much what's represented when we unite such a diverse group of participants from all around the world and really see some really wacky and crazy ideas out there, which is great as well.
Yeah, and that's precisely what we're looking for. I mean, we have been working for a long time in partnership with organisations, and we realised that particularly large business, they're sort of reaching the limits of what they're capable of achieving on their own. So now we're looking at how you can bring together groups of people to create greater change, a more systemic level of change, and that does require having some ideas that are fairly crazy. If you're just trying to think about the way that we do things currently and shift them a small bit, then you're never going to end up with anything particularly different. And I quite like the Vinod Khosla approach that the time is over for investing in stuff that's 90% likely to succeed and will change things by 10%. Now we've got to look for stuff that's 10% like succeed, but will change things by 90%.
And hey guys, Ruben Katz here. I don't think we've met before. CEO of Geeklist, founder, Hack for Good, and Dan, did you get a chance to look through some of the app and some of the ideas that had been turned into projects and shown the guys what's actually happening and what took place over the weekend a little bit?
Yeah, so what we were just discussing before we started the live stream was you may have had a great suggestion of for us to kind of prepare a little pack, a hit list of the teams that will be going into Wednesday's judging session for sustainable business. We can link directly to the YouTube clips of them presenting in the local cities and share the descriptions, and any that have live demos, we can share those as well. So we'll get all that prepared over today and share that with the judges.
Because I'm doing a search just for. I'm looking through some of the apps right now, and we've got quite a few. Everything from sustainable shipping to sustainable diet assistance, but some pretty interesting solutions in general.
Yeah, we'll be seeing a lot of good teams, I think. And I think one of the things about Hack for Good is it's not just the teams that get through to the final judging process that can go on and actually go on and have an impact and make some change in the world. We've had teams before that, like the human trafficking team that you use as an example, Ruben, who I think came in 5th place in London, but have now gone on and launched their app on the App Store and are going on to disrupt how local authorities tackle human trafficking.
Yeah, it's a really phenomenal story. I was on the way back from CES and met a woman whose mother had been spending the last 25 years of her life finding and rescuing women that were victims of human trafficking through the Tijuana, San Diego region. And she would literally have 70 or 80 women each month. 70 or 80 women each year that would come in and out of her home that she had, where she would help get them jobs, help teach them how to live normally in society, deal with the issues of having gone through the issues and trauma of being trafficked for prostitution, and at some of them at very young ages. She'd been doing it about 30 years, and but to do it 30 years ago or even 4 years ago was she had to call, and even now she'd had to call 5 different authorities, send emails, take photographs, try and put together a whole packet of what was happening and where. And she wrote a mission statement, a challenge statement in San Diego because she wanted to see if she could find somebody to help build something to help make that easier. Actually, I suggested they just write a challenge statement. Think about it. They wrote the statement, and about 30 hours into their last event, we realized that somebody in London had started working on it. Somebody from Belgrade joined in on it, and the next thing you know, we put them together on the call with the founder of the organization, a woman in her mid-60s now, and her daughter, and they broke into tears because the team had showed her what they'd built that can help her and how it can help her, and they started collaborating on an app because she uses an iPhone. They built it in an iPhone for her, and they started collaborating on it. And it just, she called me a few nights ago and let me know that it was live in the App Store and available, which is something remarkable because her goal is to get it disseminated to other women just like her who are in the same position of helping and trying to find and save women that are suffering from human trafficking. And there's stories like
it underlines really kind of the full extent of what needs to be done after a hackathon, after you've done that initial burst of the 48 hours. It really does take. Well, I know some teams have launched up their projects from this weekend already, which is incredible. But when you're dealing with some very sensitive issues, it really does take time to get those things right.
Well, and the more sensitive. Yeah. That's right. The more sensitive the issue, the more time it takes to figure out things like protecting your data and protecting the rights of children and human and different legal aspects of it. But on the flip side of that, we have an app that we just introduced to a large reforestation group. They built an app to utilize check-ins to donate a tree every time you check into your local restaurant or a Starbucks or to a store that you like. They'd have a little sticker on the sign, and if you check in, it donates a tree. And that app was an idea a day and a half ago. And yesterday and today they had a team of 4 people, very remarkably skilled team. One of them is one of the lead engineers and designers for Pivotal Labs, and it's just phenomenal talent. But it's amazing
and that's up live now at tremoapp.com.
I don't know. I think you, if you go to tremoapp.com, if you have a Android phone, it's working on the Android phone.
And I guess so. Ruben, what you were saying about we were discussing about sensitive issues when it comes to sustainable business. I know a few government agencies in the UK have been kind of reluctant to open up their data for fear of kind of showcasing where businesses are not sustainable or are causing damage to the environment, and if they kind of get the formula or the model wrong, then that can be construed as damaging to businesses and damaging their reputation, and obviously open to legal challenges. How much of an issue do you think that is, Hugh or Yme, kind of issues around sensitivity and litigation when it comes to sustainable business?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part of your question. The signal is a bit cracking sometimes.
Apologies. It was kind of about as we want to open up more and more data, this data may well reveal in a lot of cases businesses that are not acting sustainably, and then it's kind of depending on the algorithms we might use or the models we might use. There's some level of subjectivity perhaps in that assessment. How much do teams need to be concerned about those kind of issues in sustainable business projects?
Well, maybe you have answered that, but I'm not sure I fully understand the question.
So, I mean, one thing I'd say is that we talk a lot to the businesses that we work with about radical transparency, the sort of trend towards increasing transparency in the world. And we say that if you don't understand that, any part of your operations anywhere can be made visible by a wide variety of tools at any time, then you haven't really understood what's going to happen in the future. And if you can't, I came across an NGO the other day called SkyTruth, who I think have a fascinating model. They use remote sensing data, and they can do things like see where an oil spill is and then track that back to the ship that's most likely to have contributed that oil spill. And so suddenly something that was invisible is now visible. And I think that if companies haven't grasped the fact that this is what digital is very good at, is making the invisible visible, then there's a fairly severe problem. So yes, the first thing is these companies need to sort of be aware that is a trend that is increasing, that there is a certain amount of sensitivity that you have to take, because sustainability issues are incredibly complex and systemic, and you might bring out some data which suggests that something is unsustainable, but when you take the whole picture, they have actually already thought about it. So the first thing, if you're going to release anything that looks controversial, I would at least go and have a conversation with the businesses involved first, just to make sure that and a couple of people who are perhaps experts in the area, because we've seen examples recently where companies have been attacked by an NGO for supposedly poor environmental behaviour, and actually they've done quite a complex life cycle analysis of of what they're doing in their supply chain, and it turns out that they were right and the NGO was wrong. So there's always it's always important to engage those stakeholders initially, just to see if there's another side to the story. But making this stuff visible, making it transparent is what drives a lot of change. So don't hold back.
Well, Speaking of transparency, Dan and Hugh, that I just added a link. That reminds me of Jan's app that he built just this weekend with a team called Ebola Watch, and it's a viral early warning system.
Mhm.
And it utilizes the data of where the outbreaks are. You know, and I guess to your point, anytime you're dealing with data, it can be utilized for a lot of different means, but it can also be spun or used in ways that could upset a lot of people.
Yeah.
And doing things fast in a hackathon, you don't think about the negative side of things because you're thinking about how great things are going. And we've run into that. Remember, Dan, with Pim at Typhoon High-End, they built an app that could help people find food and connect them with people who have food to give. But it started running into a whole bunch of personalization and risk areas.
Hmm.
Same thing with Human Rights Watch apps that I think there was it Amnesty that was looking at a refugee tracking app that was had the same problem because they were trying to track child refugees. And in order to do that, you have to take their photos, get their names, get their information, or as much information as they have that you can capture, and where they're located at any given time. And in doing that, that data could then be used against them. I mean, imagine if ISIS got a hold of the knowledge of where the refugees that they were trying to capture before were, and used that against people. So, and considering how much money organizations like that are making, we have to believe that they're hiring, that they're hiring top developers too, just not necessarily to hack for good.
Well, I think it's a good side effect of the judging process, and one reason we do it this way is quite often we then see good connections forming between judges and teams, and you can act as mentors and very much help guide them as well, and that's something that's extremely valued. So, Yme, I'd better let you introduce yourself. We've been focusing on you a lot. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, sure. So, Yme, working for Rockstart, program director of the Smart Energy Accelerator program based here in Amsterdam, Holland. Basically, what we do here is we invest in and coach many startup companies, very early stage startup companies that try to innovate on the intersection of sustainability, energy, and IT. So we've started doing that about a year ago. Had 10 companies go through the program, a 6-month program over the past year. Where they were intensively coached by a group of mentors, investors, and partners. So the focus in terms of sustainability is mostly on energy use, resource use, etc., etc. I don't think it's as broad as you guys are using sustainability as a theme. So more focused on those areas. If you want to know what kind of things we are looking for in the startup companies that we are in general, we're looking focus on creating better products that in the end, create a more sustainable world, but we're not necessarily looking at companies that
Yme, we've
so really technology.
We seem to be having some bandwidth issues. You were breaking up for the last little bit of that.
Yeah, I'd say about the last 2-3 minutes, the talk was a little sporadic.
If you could just outline again and repeat what you were looking for.
You're free. I'm sorry, Yme. You're freezing a little bit on us. We just can't see. You're not moving.
So the kind of teams and reps we're looking for. Probably nothing.
Yeah,
just a second. I'm going to turn off your video, and we may have more luck be able to hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, that seems better.
Yeah, so you can hear me now?
oh, perfectly.
Okay. All right. So where should I start?
I
So
think
we have. Go ahead, Ruben.
yeah, you were talking a little bit about investing in socially conscious organizations that are sustainable, and you're referring to financially sustainable, not necessarily sustainable in the sense of sustaining the salmon population.
No, I don't necessarily mean financially sustainable. Of course, that's a requirement for companies to be successful. But no, the companies that we work with are mostly focused on sustainable energy and more sustainable use of resources in general. The point I try to make is that when we look at companies, we have a network of investors that love to invest in, fundable businesses that can succeed in a marketplace. We select them for their focus on sustainable energy, smarter use of energy, but we want the companies to be focused on creating successful businesses that have a more sustainable world as a result, but not necessarily as an end in itself, if you understand what I mean.
Definitely. We saw a really interesting app come out of Santiago, Chile, focused on sustainable or minimizing footprints for bicyclists.
Okay. So that's the KO team, or I think I
No,
before.
is there another one in Amsterdam that's similar?
No, there's another one in Chile actually that I've been in touch with previously.
No, this team they just built it this weekend, and it's I forget what it's called.
Okay. No, it's interesting to see what happens in Chile, because there's this startup Chile program that fosters a lots of innovation and startups are in this sustainability theme. Chile.
Yeah, I agree. Chile's got if you get a chance to watch the video of the Chilean, the video of the Chilean teams presenting, they have some really remarkable solutions to problems, and I think you'd find it really enjoyable to see some of their ideas. There was one idea that was really remarkable about saving cups, but it's more of a social activist organization convincing people to reuse their cups, use reusable cups, and when you see people on the internet, you do kind of a hashtag shaming them for not using a reusable cup. But yeah, the Santiago Chile demos, I can give you a link to them direct. So if you want to take a look at some of them later, they came out with some really remarkable stuff. I just added the link in here.
Yeah, see it.
So all the links we've been sharing in the chat, we'll copy into the YouTube comments as well, so anyone watching on YouTube can check them out.
Yes.
Ruben, I think we're probably drawing to a close, and we should wrap up. And we'll reconvene on Wednesday to see some of these teams presenting and see what represents the top of the most disruptive innovation that we can demonstrate out of Hack for Good.
Great.
Yeah. Thank you both for joining and participating and showing interest and really being very interested in what these teams are building. You know, they've put a lot of heart and soul into what they've built, and what we want to see are sustainable projects, companies that organizations or products that come out of these hackathons that can become sustainable, that turn into real projects that change the world, things that end up being used. Otherwise, it's all just a big game. We want it to be very real.
Yeah, and I suppose I'd be quite interested for the judging on Wednesday to have a clear expression of what challenge the idea is solving, so that there's a sense of context, because obviously one of the things that happened before this was that a number of organizations suggested where they thought sort of the energy could best be deployed in terms of using digital solutions to tackle sustainability problems. And I think that framing is quite important. And so if the teams could sort of say where their idea came from. And the other thing is that I very much encourage them to, data does not equal change, and it certainly doesn't equal behavior change. And so if they can show or sort of demonstrate that they're not just producing sort of new information, but how that information has kind of social context or is going to go out into the world and actually change people's minds or behaviors, that would be very valuable. Because I see a lot of platforms, I'm involved in this sort of quite a bit, and I see a lot of platforms coming out saying if we just made the information visible, people would do something. And I think climate change is the ultimate rebuttal to that. We have all the information we need, people still don't change their behavior. So let's try and ensure that's incorporated into these ideas.
That would be great. Why don't I look forward to catching up. Dan, thanks for organizing and pulling this call together. And I've heard great things about Rockstart. Camille has told us, and Karen obviously Karen has been very expressive about how wonderful it is what you guys do there, and being connected to organizations like that only helps us along. But Dan, I think. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I just want to say thanks again to Hugh from Forum for the Future and Yme from Rockstart. Your input is incredibly valuable, and it's one of those things that helps us really achieve our aims and hopefully make a big difference on climate change. We'll reconvene on Wednesday at the same time of 8 a.m. British time, 9 a.m. Central European time, and midnight Pacific time. And look forward to speaking to you again then. Thank you.
Okay.
Cheers.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks.